Good day, Sir Sagani. I'm Grace A.B. Paringin. I'm the reporter of Chapter 13 entitled Cultural Appropriation on the Arts. We all know that in this contemporary world, we live in a culture that overflows with image and object. Artists today incorporate these objects into their creative expression, and this is what we call appropriation on the arts. So, by the way, the meaning of the appropriate is to borrow. Appropriation in arts is the practice of creating or even borrowing new work by taking pre-existing image, meaning you borrow an image and you practice how to do it by taking pre-existing image from other sources of appropriation in appropriated image, including contemporary historical works of art, historical records, films, television. The source of an image or an object that was appropriated can be politically charged, symbolic, or ambitious, or can even push limits through imagery deemed acceptable for art. So as you can see in the picture, it is it is an artwork created by Pablo Picasso in 1907, and he called it Las Demoiselles d'Avignon. And in the left side, it is also a painting which Robert Collis Scott recreated recreated the Pablo Picasso's painting, which he called Les Demoiselles de Alabama. And so an example of contemporary appropriation can be seen in the artwork above, which he borrows its plot and structures from Picasso's controversial painting Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, and in this instance, Colin Scott has extended Picasso's abstraction and Africanism in accordance with influence with Europe. What does the artist do with the image which was appropriated? So any appropriated image can be politically or photographed or digitally reproduced, copied by mechanical means using overhead projector that is attached directly into artwork or recreated in several ways. The result can be real representation of appropriated object or genuine transformation. So the result can be real representation of appropriated object or a genuine transformation. So artists will occasionally recreate something or repaint it over to produce a new piece of art, and they may also change or scale or they may also change the scale or the style. Is the use of appropriation significant? So I can say that it is a yes, because the use of appropriation in art has significant role in the history of art, like those in performing artistic artistic, musical, and literary arts. In the visual of arts, to appropriate means to properly adopt, borrow, recycle, or sample aspect of human-made, visual, and cultural. So most of the time, the original object is still accessible and unchanged. The term appropriated visual art refers to proper adoption, borrowing, recycling, or sampling of human-made, visual, and cultural elements. The next topic is historical background of appropriation in arts. Appropriation in art started in 1907 with Richard Gere photograph advertised such as Marlboro cigarette. So his main work is on billboard advertising. In 1907, this art was commonly used by artists, and one of them was Sharon Levine, who addressed the art of appropriating itself as a theme in art. In her own art, she frequently used whole coat, as when she take pictures of Walker Evans living, explore the idea of being almost the same. So Walker Evans photographed Ali Mae Burrow, the wife of Alabama sharecropper, almost 50 years ago. So Levin boldly photographed Evans' notable She did not take the original photo but rather a copy of photo that appeared in a book for a Walker Evans exhibition. In the 1990s, artists continued to produce appropriation art, praising it as a medium to address theories and social issues rather than to focus on the work of themselves. So imbis na produce sila og ilahang own artwork, mas ilahang gi-continue ang pag-produce og appropriation art. So in this digital age, appropriation have today become a everyday phenomenon. So the remix culture of the current generation has already dominated the visual arts as well as music, literature, dance, film, and etc. According to some artists, by liberating one finally from traditionally concept as originality, they will lead to new terms of understanding and defining art. Critically observed see this as a starting point of a huge problem. So they say that if the creation is based on nothing more than a careful process of finding, copying, recombining, and manipulating pre-existing image or a media concept forms varies an author of any sources. Art will be trivialized, low demanding, and a regressive activity. Copying, imitating, repeating, quoting original works of art is a plagiarism and is a violation of the copyright law. So as we all know that everything we copy, imitate, repeating, quoting original works of art can be violate as a copyright law. So the next topic is appropriation art case filed in court. Appropriation Act has several result in a several copyright issue under the copyright law. A number of case law examples have emerged that investigate the division between the transformative works and derivative work. The derivative work is it is required to it is a required or a consent from the underlying copyright owner, and while the transformative work is it is a situation where the artist appropriates the works of other artists as the raw ingredients for their own work. So among those who face a series of lawsuits were Andy Warhol, the compulsive can. Actually, kani si Andy Warhol kay na-accuse ni siya na naa siya kaso na copyright, trademark, and trade dress infringement. Pero there is no infringements of trademark because there is no chance that anyone would confuse Warhol's product with soap, nor the reason person would see them as a connected nor as an endorsement. And there is no trade dress infringements for similar reason. The use of the design is fair because it is clearly meant as a commentary and criticism, and it has no negative impact of Compel's ability to sell the soup nor the design. The next one is Jeff Koons, The String of Puppies. Koons has been sued for copyright infringement several times before losing twice in the early 90s, once for appropriating photograph image in his sculptured String of Puppies, once of using the image of the Garfield character Audie. Much of his work involves the reinterpretation of sources from elsewhere. The first lawsuit, stemming from the Banality show, was filed in 1989 when the artist's photograph Art Rogers sued Koons for exhibiting and selling the sculpture of his photograph puppies, which show a man and a woman clutching with the 8 dogs. So Cons defend his work, String of Puppies in 1988, was simple. The String of Puppies transformations from the two-dimensional image to the three-dimensional sculpture was completed with the intention to parody, and thus it is qualified as fair use, a legal defense against the copyright infringement. Next is the Andrea Blanche Silk Sandal by Gucci. On October 10, 2003, she filed this lawsuit asserting that Cons infringement the copyright in silk sandal in violation of Copyright Act 1976. Once again, the artist is being accused of copying part of the photograph taken by Andrea Blanche titled The Silk Sandal by Gucci and published in the August 2000 issues of Allure magazine to illustrate an article of a metallic makeup. Next is the Damien Hirst sculpture or the hymn. Since in 1999, Hirst's works have been challenged and contested as a plagiarized 16 times, and once instance after his sculpture hymn was found to be closely based on a child's toy. So legally proceeding to lead to out of court settlement. So in 2000 it was disclosed that Hertz had paid an undisclosed sum to prevent the legal actions for breach of copyright by designers of a toy that resembled his famous bronze sculpture hymn. Next is Richard Prince and companion and their painting Canal Zone. Shortly after Prince joined the Gagosian Gallery in 2008, his Canal Zone series partly a costly lawsuit when the French photographer Patrick Cario sued Prince for the unlawful use of the original photograph. So in 2008, his Canal Zone series partly costly lawsuit with the French photographer Patrick Cario sued Prince for the unlawful use of his original photographs, which Prince had admitted taking the work, altering and incorporating the photos into a series of painting and collage, which he called Canal Zone. Appropriation of art into contemporary narratives. Many artists today have been trained in a specific artistic style, movement, and techniques, and these artists appropriate and transform works of art to varying degree to fit them to the theme and design of the stories they wish to illustrate and publish. So, in fine arts, there are three forms of narrative appropriateness, which is reproduction, transfiguration, and stylization. Ang kaning reproduction is it is the mimetic reproduction of original work of art, a faithful rendering of an original work. So pasabot ana kay gisuon nga jud kung unsa ang exact forma or position or ang other characteristics sa kana na artwork, and mostly ang example ana is ang example sa reproduction kay ang picture or digital art sa artwork na gisuon. Example is kani si Mona Lisa, which is his favorite painting. You could commission a fine art reproduction of it. That is, painting would be hand painted by the artist. Next is the transfiguration. A single work of art is identifiable, but the artist has transformed an image to fit the context and purpose of a particular picture, board, narrative, and design. So pasabot ana kay mailhan jud siya like flower bacana pero giusab sa artist ang image sa flower para mo-fit sa iyahang gihimo na story of example. Next is stylization. A specific work is not readily identifiable but a particular art movement, which example is Dali's dream caused by the flight of a bee around the pomegranate a second before awakening is a remarkable example of surrealist art. Next topic is the 5 acts of cultural appropriation. So there are um, 5 acts of cultural appropriation. First is the object appropriation. So object appropriation is a latency of object of appropriation as work of art. A modify may be repeated, copy in a pattern or design, often many times for appropriation use. Object appropriation occurs when the possession of a real work of art, such as sculpture or a painting, is transferred from members of one culture to members of another culture. Next is the context appropriation. So, and context appropriation is an artist has significantly reuse an idea first expressed in the work of the artist from the another culture. Next is style appropriation. It takes place when a person makes use of stylistic innovation distinctive of a cultural group that is not her own. Next is motive appropriation. It is occurs when the influence of another culture is considered in creating of a new work rather than the new work being created in the same style as the work of the other culture. Next is subject appropriation. Subject appropriation occurs when someone from one culture represent a member of an aspect of another culture. Next topic is appropriation in contemporary arts, adapted from Barbara Kruger in 1987, posted in the internet. The process of nature appropriation has considered as the anthropologist as part of the study of cultural change and cross cultural contact. Easily accessible pictures from the media, well-known literary works, and famous and identifiable piece of art are among the visual and cultural components that are frequently appropriated. The first artist to successfully demonstrate form of appropriation within his work is widely considered to be Marcel Duchamp. So he created the idea of the ready-made, which basically comprised selecting a piece, signing it, and repositioning it in a gallery context. Whilst the beginning of appropriation can be located to the beginning of the 20th century, appropriating through the innovation of Duchamp, and it is often said that if the art of the 1980s could be epitomized by any one technique or practice, it would be appropriation. The concept of originality and of authorship are central to the debate of appropriation in contemporary art. So it is also crucial to take it into account the work of art of the artist inviolate in appropriation in terms of their intentions, justification, and and the impact of their work in order to fully assess the notion. So to sum up, cultural appropriation, what is it and why is it wrong? The idea of cultural appropriation has entered in the mainstream of contemporary society, casting doubt and legitimacy of everything. So the reason is it can provoke anything or anyone into lesser use and lesser use to serious offense of violation of copyright law. What is it then? So, cultural appropriation in terms of art is when someone adopts, copy, transfer, borrow, or transform something, an object, image, motif, etc., from cultural that is not her or his own, a photograph, a book, clothing style, hairstyle, and etc. So, unlike cultural exchange, in which there is mutual interchange, appropriation refers to a particular power dynamic in which member of a dominant culture taken elements from a culture to people who have been systematically opposed by that dominant group. What's wrong with the appropriation? The problem arises when somebody takes something from other less dominant culture, especially without the knowledge of the original owner, in a way that a member of that culture find undesirable and offensive. So the issue of emerge when someone takes something from a less dominant culture and use is it when in a way that members of that culture find it as objectable and disrespectful. And that's all. Thank you.